Hey guys, it's Jay. Welcome back to my channel, where we discuss the popular culture of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're back with the UFO Grendizer review. This time, we're going to be taking a look at some of the additional gimmicks that actually came with Grandizer, and a lot of the accessories which he can use to augment his superiority. So, without further ado, let's get right on into it. If you're a fan of the show, you'll realize that Grandizer is equipped with many different weapons, and the actual UFO Grandizer was very powerful against all of his enemies. As a matter of fact, the Spazer itself is equipped with multiple armaments, including the drills, the laser shooters, which are right here, the actual side horns, which can cut the enemies down, and multiple different armaments throughout the show. Today, we're going to showcase a few more of these gimmicks, including some things which the supporting characters were able to get in on. So, let's remove the Spazer first. And let's take a look, once again, at the man himself, Grandizer. Right now, Grandizer is in the pose we left him in the last time. So let's put him back to standard. We've already shown the launching gimmick. Now, let's talk a little bit more about some of his other gimmicks. Everyone is familiar with how Grandizer docks with the Spazer. So let's go through that portion right now. So originally we had the fists, and they are, again, wonderfully detailed. You can see all the amazing detail that the Japanese have put into it. But when he docks with the Spazer, he has to actually put his hands on the side of the Spazer itself. So then we get replaced, those fists get replaced with open palm clasps that hang on to the side of the Spazer. Again, wonderful attention to detail in Japanese. So, these affix to the forearms, pretty much like this. There we go. And then, as always, we just zoom out a bit. And as before, it just literally snaps right into place. We'll do the exact same thing with this forearm right here too. Perfect. All right. Now the magic begins. One of the greatest things about the Grandizer right now is that he stands a menacing, I don't know, what is it, like 200 feet tall, something like that? But when he gets into the actual Spazer, which, if we take a look at it right now, if we were to take the Spazer and just go right up to the Grandizer at this point, we can see that there actually is very little chance that he would ever actually fit into the Spazer itself. See, with this angle that you're seeing, you probably can't tell that he doesn't fit. But if I was to push him to the back, you can see that his shoulders pretty much go right to the thrusters. And in reality, he's only supposed to fit into the circular portion of the Spazer. So how do we actually get him in there? You have to love the ingenuity of the Japanese. They really are amazing at their craft. The secret is in his legs. We basically tuck them in as close as we can. And I'm going to zoom in for this part. So now that we have them all tucked in, the engineers who designed Grendizer, this toy here, they were able to get his legs to shrink. Now, this is the funniest thing you've ever seen if this is the first time you've ever done this. Because quite literally, I'm going to zoom out right now, you literally have a miniature Grandizer. That literally is the cutest thing I have ever seen. Okay, so all jokes aside, let's put this together. If this is the first time you're doing this, I really do suggest you consult the manual, because it really does give you a lot of great tips on how to actually put the Grandizer in together perfectly. We didn't actually go through the manual in great detail last time, and we're not really going to spend too much time on it here, but I did just want to flip through a few pages, and this is the history of the Grandizer, you know, some toy shots there, how Gonagai and Koji Igarashi, you know, collaborated to actually put this amazing story together. As you can see, there he is. There's Gonagai himself. Apparently, there was a designer, Petier Ginner, who was also involved. Interesting. I wonder if he's French. Not really sure. The next part is all the schematics. Shows you the pieces that come with the Grandizer itself. Then all of the gimmicks, the shoulder boomerang, which I don't ever recommend you ever doing on a regular basis, because as I said before, the flash, the little bits of flash that are actually on the shoulder boomerangs, they are quite sharp, and they will chip your paint eventually. The double Harriken, or as we know it here, the double Sickle. We just did the foot unit. They show a magnificent diagram of Grandizer, cross-section, beautiful stuff. That's one of my favorite parts of these old school animes, where they would show you the interiors of the robots, even though in a lot of ways they don't make much sense. And of course, the screw crusher punch and the arm units at the top there. All right, let's get to the meat and what we were talking about here. So here are some of the instructions on how to assemble the Grandizer. I've gone through a few of these. We'll go through the Sickle later. The important part that we want to take a look at, other than the assembly, is how to dock. So there's the Spazer. Wonderful full color illustrations here. Wonderful full color diagrams here. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. As you can see, this is actually the way the Spazer cross is supposed to look. Okay. So let's see if they have instructions on how to dock. All right, so here we go. As you can see, they instruct us to lift up the arms, push up the legs, open the dock completely. Then, just like in the cartoon, they want us to actually go right through the back and into the front. I'm not sure if I remember doing this before, but I'm not sure that's the exact best way to do it. I think that's really awesome if you're doing it for playing purposes, if you don't really mind scratching your figure. But I am kind of hesitant to do that now. I'm going to double check and we'll give it a shot, but I'm not going to condone anything of that nature right now. But let's just go through it and see what happens. Who knows? Maybe you know, they are the designers themselves. Maybe they know best. All right, so let's get to it. All right, let's take Grandizer back a little bit. So we'll just push him back, just like before, and we'll bring in the Spazer one more time. Okay, as I demonstrated before in the last video, the best way to do this is we open up the bay on the back here. This is the simplest portion of the actual transformation. Then, and I'll give you these tips one more time. Open up the front section. This is the simplest part right here. Now this part here, this can get a little tricky for anyone who's tried this the first time. What I tried to illustrate it before, but I think I wasn't really clear. Press on this section here while pushing on this section here. It makes everything a lot easier. So press here and then push Still not really that easy, but press here and then push here. It's always something with these things. Let's try it with this one first. There we go. So press here and then push at the same time. When the first one's open for whatever reason, the second one gets a lot easier. So again, press here. And push on that side. Okay, that's not good. There we go. Okay. All right. And then this part here, it comes down as well that way. This needs to be out more like that. There we go. And this one needs to be out more like that. There we go. So now the bay, as you can see, is completely open. Okay? Okay. Let's oh man, this is always a nerve-wracking situation, especially for collectors. So I don't do this very often, as you can probably tell. Okay, so according to the manual, I'm going to push this back a little bit. We lift up Grandizer's arms, just like in the show. And again, I can only imagine they're doing this for authenticity's sake. I really can't see this being a common practice to continue to transform this figure, because it is not. This is not easy. Okay, so his hands are all the way up. Oh, this is difficult. Okay. As you can tell, I don't do this very often, mainly because I really don't want to. So according to the manual, we just kind of like push him in this way. And as you can already see, I do not like doing this. It's already impacting on the top and bottom portions. Now, the double sickle, the boomerang blades, they are kind of protecting the top. But the bottom portion, which is his red chest, it's getting mangled. I am not going to do this, guys. I'm going to go from the front. Okay? I really do suggest this for everybody. Go from the front. Do not attempt to go from the back. That's just not a good idea. Okay? So the way I do it is I put his feet in first, and what I do is I tuck them in so that as little of the paint gets any sort of abrasion. So I kind of like go in through there, navigate, and sort of just tuck him in gently, as gentle as humanly possible. Okay, and there you go. So now he's all the way in. Okay. Now, again, I'm not following the instructions at all because I really don't want my Grendizer to be scratched up. I'm going to close up the bay in the back, so this is difficult because, you know, things are already happening. So as you can see, his feet kind of, I don't know if you can see that right now, but his feet pretty much tuck in here. Okay, then you can close up the back section. Okay, hold on. Always make sure you hear the clicks. And then this closes like that. Okay, so now the back is secure. And here in the front, what you want to do is these two forks here, they support the midsection like this. Okay, so you can actually see that he's being comfortably snug within the two forks. Can you see that? And then what you do is you just secure this section here like that. Okay, so now he's in. And I lost a wing. Okay. Normally you wouldn't be doing this on the camera, so it would normally be a lot easier to get all this stuff done. All right, so just like in the show, what you would do is you would raise his head all the way up. Just like that. Actually, there we go. Yeah. You can actually pull his head out a little bit more and then tilt it as much as you possibly can. There you go. And then you just take his arms and you, see, you got to be very careful with this because it really can get, if you look at this, let me see if I can zoom in on that. If you're not careful, this portion here can really scratch up your arm. So that's why I really don't suggest trying to replicate the cartoon version too much, because to sacrifice authenticity for the sake of your actual figure, it's a scary proposition. And what I'm actually going to do right now is I'm going to reopen the gate because I don't want to scratch or have the possibility of scratching that portion. Just a few tips here, guys, because you know what, honestly, you spent hundreds of dollars on this figure, and for it to actually get all messed up, it's just a shame, a really big shame. So I'm gonna negotiate the arms around first. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna put back his midsection here. And as you can see, that is totally uncomfortable for me. It literally is touching these two sections here. I am not comfortable with that at all, but it is a gimmick. I did say I was going to show it to you. I do not put Grandizer in here very often, honestly saying. And really, it's a treat for you guys because I really don't like doing this. Not even joking. All right. So, as you can see, now, the manual says to tuck his hands into the small sections here on the corners. Now I don't do that because I like to see his hands outside of the Spazer the way they were meant to be. So I kind of like leave it at that section here and at this section here, right? So in terms of authenticity, that's how I do it. And if you actually take a look at the figure now, let's zoom out. It really is a very impressive display having the Grendizer as he is in the series, always ready for action. If we were to rotate him, you can actually see it really is, oh sorry, and just to give it that little bit extra authenticity, close up the top cover as much as you can. Wonderful design, wonderful piece here in terms of the Grandizer. It really is a great looking replica. I love it. Amazing. Just incredible. This truly is an exact replica, as close as it can be, to what they intended for the show. So, let's quickly remove Grandizer out of the Spazer, which I'm not going to show you guys because I'm just going to basically be as gentle as possible, and then we're going to show a few more of the gimmicks that are included with the Grandizer toy. And without further ado, we return to Mini Grandizer. Yeah, that joke's going to get old really fast. Okay, let's save Grandizer from his dignity. Bring up the head. Really simple, just pull up. He is incredibly well designed. I've done that literally 50 to 60 times, and it's never ever gotten old. It's just keeps getting better and better and better. All right, so now the Grendizer has returned to his glory. Let's take a look at a few more of his gimmicks. Grandizer's most popular gimmicks was the double Harriken, or the double Sickle, in which his shoulder blades, his shoulder boomerangs, would literally shoot out from this position here, boom, and then they would join up, and he would be able to use these as a double staff with sickles at the end. Let's take a look at how that works right now. If we zoom in here. We take these two pieces, which are two portions of the staff. These two connect right here as you can see, there's a positive and negative, and they just literally join up like this. That's it. So now we have a long staff, and I suppose you could use them as two separate staffs, but the traditional way of doing the double Harriken is with the long staff. These long staffs also have an actual hole in them, and then they connect to the sickle using that piece there. Simple connection. Nice tight fit. Beautiful chrome job. Oh, just love that. And then of course, we do the exact same thing on the other side. Admittedly, this is not the best construction. The material itself is a bit gummy, as many collectors will attest to. And I suppose it has to do with the flexibility that they want with the character, because the arms maybe don't meet up exactly, you know, the way we would expect them to. But still, I would have wanted a little bit more rigidity. This literally is, if you can see that, it literally is a gummy material. It's not tacky like some gummy materials that are out there, but this one is really super flexible. And even if you just sort of bend it in the wrong way, it literally comes right apart. So there's a little bit of a con for you in terms of like this particular portion and this particular gimmick. All right, so let's put this in the hands of Grandizer. All right, let's get Grandizer in position. So we'll just zoom out a little bit. The forearms have to come back out, and these hands get replaced with the slightly open fists. So as you can see, once again, the fists are incredibly detailed. Jeez. Wonderfully sculpted. The hole is just big enough to hold the actual pole itself, but again, the sculpting is top-notch. Okay, let's touch these fists. So, we just take the forearms again, and roll one. As always, we just affix the hand right onto the forearm. There we go. And we just let it snap back into place. Same thing with this one. Just take the forearm, take the fist, move it into place, and then just let it snap into place. Excellent. All right. So now we can take this portion here. Oh, I forgot something. I totally forgot something, and I know a bunch of you guys are gonna scream at me for that. So let's fix that right away. Grendizer, unlike the Mangzinger and the Great Mangzinger, has a really cool feature in that his forearms have these awesome drill attachments right on top of them. The screw crusher punch. And they lie on top of the forearms like so. And that just makes them look 100 times better. I apologize, guys. I totally forgot that. And look at that. It really does make it look just amazing. Of course, I gotta pin them down a little bit. Same thing with this one. We just take that, bring it in like this. And I can see why they made a gummy plastic for this. The way they need to be able to negotiate inside these forearms like that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to see how they kind of bend around the forearms. Now, be careful when you're doing that. There is a white line of paint here, and it does tend to, right there, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but the paint does chip off, so be very careful. And then basically, also, it's not as tight a fit on the magnets once you put on the forearms, just so you know. Okay, so now that I've got him in position, let's attach the double Harriken. And this is the reason why, for the most part, these two come in two pieces. Because, let's zoom in here. Sorry for the shaky camera, guys. Just gotta reposition a little bit. The main reason why these two have to be in two pieces is because one has to stick in through here, and the other one has to stick in through here. There's a joke in there somewhere, but we don't have time for that today. And as I said, one of the reasons why it's a bit gummy on the inside is because I'm rather sure that it's got to have a little bit of flex, because it doesn't always come out exactly the way you want it. Wow. When you zoom out just a bit more, that really is a definitive pose for the greatest of the Go Nagai robots. Epic. Seriously, seriously epic. There really is only one more grand gimmick left, but we have saved the best for last. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. And here it is, guys, the greatest gimmick in the UFO Grendizer series, Lance's Tfo Spaceship. Yeah. No, this is definitely not the greatest gimmick, but it is a wonderful inclusion, as collectors always love seeing these tiny little nods to the series, and Lance was a huge, big, important part of the series itself. So I am so glad that they included the Tfo, or here in North America, the UFO that Lance created along with Dr. Valkonian. Just really great stuff. The true last gimmick that we have to talk about is actually the second ship which Lance and the team developed to help Grendizer. And that is the Double Spazer. The Double Spazer was created to give Grandizer more maneuverability outside of the actual Spazer itself. They realized that Grandizer can't fly outside the Spazer, but at the same time, that gives him very little maneuverability in terms of trying to fight outside the Spazer itself. So, in one episode, they actually created the Double Spazer, in which Lance and Orion Quest could join up together and defeat the enemies with greater maneuverability. This is the main unit, which in and of itself is really amazing looking. The wings themselves on this particular replica, they move up and down like they do in the series, and they have that wonderful clicking motion. All the ratchet joints, beautiful stuff. So it can be as flat as it can be, or it can actually, as in the series, bring up or come down. And then this portion actually comes up, but we'll do that in a second. There are more parts to the actual Double Spazer. We'll just rotate this a little bit. The fin needs to be affixed here. And just, oh, it just gives it that wonderful, sleek looking design. I just love that. It's like a jet fighter pilot. Sorry, jet fighter itself. And then there are these two top fins for the actual left and right wing sections themselves. These affix to the top of the sections here within these grooves. And we just sort of negotiate them in like that. Beautiful attention to detail. Again, extremely faithful to the series itself. And fans of Grandizer, I think, would really appreciate the way this particular collectible has come together. All right, so without further ado, let's take a look at how the double Spazer joins with the Grandizer itself. The Grandizer joins with the double Spazer through this tiny little magnetic portion here on his back. Just like the Great Manzinger and Manzinger Z is a very similar gimmick where this hole connects to a peg which can be revealed here on the Spazer by opening up this section here and revealing the actual magnetic peg on the bottom here. So this magnetic peg affixes to this hole and boom, the Spazer itself connects, the double Spazer itself connects with Grandizer. The way it's supposed to look, the proper way it's supposed to look, is the wings need to come up, these two need to aim down, and then this portion here on the top comes up, a little bit more, comes up, the neck, it lifts up here like this, and then just bend down, kind of. Hold on. Is it all the way up? It is all the way up. There it is. So it literally has to kind of separate and then come up and down. It's kind of like a pterodactyl head. And then this has to aim like this. There we go. All right. So then when you finally see it, there we go. That's actually, totally forgot. All right. And that's basically the way it's supposed to be there. And then the Grandizer himself just basically looks like that. Wonderful. So faithful to the original series. This Soul of Chogokin GX-04 is well beyond my wildest imaginations when I first got it. He really is the greatest of the Go Nagai robots, in my opinion, and still today stands the test of time in terms of all giant robots. Well guys, I really hope you enjoyed this look back at the Soul of Chogokin GX-04 UFO Grendizer collectible diecast model. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a like. It really helps me out. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions on toys, collectibles, anime, movies, or anything else you'd like me to review, please leave that in the comment section below. And consider subscribing, as I have many more of these episodes on the way. Also, consider sharing this episode with someone who you think might enjoy it. Well guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Geek proud. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button and consider subscribing to my channel for more reviews like this one. And as always, thanks for watching.